Hey guys, I'm Jackson Rollo, the host of the One and Done podcast. We're super excited to release season 3, and in season 3, we're going to be rolling out a new theme to the podcast. So over the first 2 years, our theme has been interviewing younger, successful people in any white collar business, really just trying to teach our college students and anybody out there trying to figure out what they want to do at a young age, what businesses exist. With season 3, we're taking it a level deeper, and we're going to be interviewing people who are either co-founders or C-level executives at a very young age. So going from what they're doing in business to really showing that pinnacle of success, what it looks like to run a company, to found a company, the struggles of an entrepreneur, and what it looks like to grow a business and to lead people. We're super excited, and we want to welcome you to season 3 of the One and Done podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode, season 3 here on the One and Done podcast. Today, joined by Addison Labonte, the founder at Sweet Addisons. Addison, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Jackson. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Always love having fellow Texans on. You know, sometimes we get these out-of-state people, but nothing like two Texans with our accents going, right?
I'm actually not from Texas, but I
Where are you from
consider
originally?
myself. I'm from the coast of Maine, so really
Yeah.
not Texas.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot, the weather's a lot worse down here than probably what you're used to. So,
Well, you could argue, see, I like the weather down here better year round because Maine has very harsh winters. The summer in Maine is magical. I mean, it's the best place to be, but for 6 months out of the year, it's freezing, it's snowing, there's ice. It's just not a fun place to be.
yeah, I think you always enjoy certain things about everywhere you live, right? But with that being said, from Maine, now in Texas, Addison, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your story, and Sweet Addisons?
Yes, so I was born and raised in Maine in a small town on the southern coast of Maine. I attended the University of Maine for college and I was a soccer player there. So I was a Division I college soccer player. It was such a challenging but rewarding experience. It was truly the best 4 years. And then when I graduated, I wanted to stay in really good shape, so I started training for a marathon. And I noticed that I would start to lose feeling in my legs as I was running these longer distances. And I'd been an athlete my whole life playing soccer and had never really had an injury, which is such a blessing, but was very confused why all of a sudden I would have numb legs while running. So naturally, I tried to figure things out like, oh, maybe it's the type of shoes that I'm wearing. So I got new running shoes. Maybe I need to wear those compression socks to help with, circulation. Maybe, I need to go do physical therapy. So I tried everything. I tried yoga and it just, nothing helped. So I ended up seeing a sports specialist doctor, and he said you have what's called compartment syndrome, which is the muscle fibers in my legs that surround my muscles, they don't expand like they should in a normal person. So the extra blood flow while I'm running is trying to get to my leg muscles and it can't. So when the blood flow gets cut off, my legs become numb. And I remember sitting in his office that day, he said, you have two options. You can either quit running altogether or you can get surgery on both of your legs. It's called the fasciotomy, and we go in and we make little incisions in your muscle fibers to allow them to expand. The blood flow can get there. He said, there's no guarantee that these surgeries work. So you might go through this, take 12 months off of working out, and still have the same issue. And I just remember thinking, at the time, I just graduated from college. I thought I was in the best shape of my life. There's no reason that I shouldn't be able to run. I was a healthy 22-year-old at that point in time. So I was training for this marathon with my aunt who's run many marathons. And she said, well, I became gluten-free because it really helped me feel better when I was running. So maybe you should try becoming gluten-free. And I thought, well, that has nothing to do with my legs losing feeling, but I'm so desperate at this point.
Yeah,
And
try anything.
I'll try anything. Let's give it a shot. So on a Monday morning in July of 2016, I became gluten-free. And I had no idea what I was doing at first, but I went from eating fast food every week to reading every ingredient label. And I was horrified at what I had been eating and what is in the food that we eat today. So I kind of went from one extreme to the other. But the best part about becoming gluten-free was within 3 days, I could run normally again.
Really?
So it was pretty much an overnight switch.
Wow.
And I just remember the first time that I ran where I could actually feel my legs again was it was a life-changing experience for me because not only was I able to run again, but I had all these other symptoms clear up and I didn't know how sick I was until I wasn't sick anymore. I thought I was healthy, but looking back, I would get one really bad headache every week. I would have bloating, brain fog, fatigue. I wasn't sleeping well, like all these different things. And when I became gluten free, it gave me the ability to run again, but it gave me the ability to live again. So that's a little bit about my journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm excited to hear more about how that kind of led into Sweet Addison's. I know that when we were talking before, you kind of mentioned that during that time you started documenting that journey, right? And that's kind of what led to essentially what is Sweet Addison's today. So, kind of catch us up. How did all that come together and make you a founder?
So I became very passionate about health and wellness and ingredients, and I started immediately doing a lot of research about being gluten free, celiac disease, and it's linked to compartment syndrome and marathon running. And there was nothing out there. And I was shocked that no one else had, solved their blood circulation issues by becoming gluten free. So I thought, people need to know about this because there's this doctor here who thought I should get surgery, and I was able to solve this naturally. So I started an Instagram account called Organically Addison, and I just started posting what I was eating every day and just talking about how I was fueling myself for marathon running and the transition to becoming gluten free. And it really picked up steam. And this account that I started back in 2018, it exploded during 2020 when everybody was at home baking
Yep.
and looking for healthier options. So I was able to turn that, I guess, side hustle into a full-time income. And then in 2022, in December, I did what I called the 25 days of Christmas cookies. And each day in December leading up to Christmas of that year, I posted a different cookie video. And a few of them went viral, but the coolest part was I had people sending me messages on Instagram saying, "This looks so good, I will pay you if you ship it to me." And I thought, well, social media is so volatile and I don't own my Instagram account and it could disappear tomorrow. Why don't I start my own brand? And if I have demand for something that doesn't even exist yet, why don't I launch the first ever, truly clean ingredient, indulgent dessert brand? So I spent a lot of 2023 formulating recipes, getting the business ready to go from a legal standpoint and an operational standpoint. And then I launched Sweet Addison's in January of 2024, and I have barely slept since.
Yeah, I'm about to say congratulations. That's 2 quarters down into being a founder of your own business. That's fantastic. But I mean, sounds like a lot of entrepreneurship, right, leading up to that as well. So let me ask you this: what's the favorite cookie?
The chocolate chip cookie is the best seller. It's my favorite. However, something that has been interesting is I told myself from day one, this company is about the consumer. It's about my customers, my audience, this community. It's not about me. It's about me serving them and what they need. And very early on, people started asking for brownies. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Like, I've never thought about going online and ordering a brownie, but I mean, cookies, yeah, of course I would do cookies. So I launched classic fudge brownies, and I say classic. They're gluten-free, dairy-free, they're paleo, refined sugar-free. But I launched brownies in March or April of this year, and those have exploded. I mean, they are closing in on the chocolate chip cookie as the best seller. And I mean, now that the cookies have been live for 6 months and the brownies have been live for 4, and they're about neck and neck, I'd say technically the brownies are winning because they've had a shorter lifespan so far. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's been really fun, is just creating this sense of community where my audience can say, like, we're looking for this or we're looking for that. And they're a big reason why I recently launched lemon cookies, because I was getting messages from people saying, I don't like chocolate, so I can't order from you. And I'm thinking, who doesn't like chocolate? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. What has been the most challenging part of the entrepreneurship journey you've been on so far?
Being patient. by far has been the hardest part. Give me the 2 to 3 a.m. nights, the no sleep, the being in the bakery all day long. I don't care. I can do physical labor all day. I put myself through that in college, being a D1 athlete.
Yeah, soccer player, you're conditioned, for endurance.
Right. That doesn't bother me. I've never been scared of hard work. I'm a very impatient person, and it's been hard to mentally to kind of step back and think, okay, I'm building something and it's going to take time to gain traction. Unless I go out and raise a ton of money and just spend millions on marketing. I'm trying to do this profitably and bootstrapped. So it's a different business model, but it's been very difficult for me to be patient. Being an impatient person has served me very well throughout my life, but it also can sometimes steal the joy from what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think in business, we're both, young, right? So we have time to build something. But I think sometimes that also leads to a little more impatience, right? Because we see an idea or you see what you're doing with the community you're building and you just expect it to blow up overnight. But it's funny how, just putting in that 1% better every single day, that's really when you see the results is when you look back and like, wow, I forgot how much, we advanced, how much we got better, because you're kind of probably looking at everything through the lens of how are we going to get better today, right? Which leads to some of that impatience you're talking about. I thought it was fascinating, right? You're former D1 athlete. You have this great background in, athletics and competition. So I had two questions. The first one is, do you hate to lose or do you love to win?
I hate to lose.
I think every successful person hates to lose more than they love to win. It just drives us. I'm with you on that. So what has been the biggest thing that you've taken from your soccer days that you now have in business?
Oh, there's so many life lessons. I tell people that being a Division I college soccer player, I learned so much about the game of soccer. I mean, more than I ever really cared to know. But I learned even more about life. And every single day, there are things that I'm thinking about, going through, learning that I can trace back to my college soccer days. I think the overall thing it taught me was mental toughness and the fact that, we will go through hard times and trials and tribulations and setbacks and obstacles, but how do you get through those? And what is your mentality when it comes to that? So I could view setbacks as setbacks, like, oh man, this is brutal, I'm having a rough day. Or I could say, this is making me tougher, and this is going to make me a better business owner and a better entrepreneur and CEO. So I think the biggest thing is it just made me a really tough person. And I still see that all the time in my day-to-day life. I mean, it can be the end of a really long day and I'm like, oh, I haven't worked out today. I'm going to go jump on the treadmill. The average person would stay on the couch because they're exhausted. I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. I need to go, work out. So it also taught me a lot of discipline, which I'm thankful for, but it is absolutely the foundation of who I am as a person. I mean, it taught me so much about life and hard work.
Yeah, I want to get back to the discipline because I love that. That's kind of my theme of the year. But I think it's interesting, right? You talk about the toughness, and I think a lot of people lack that today. And I think that's why, other businesses maybe fail sometimes is you have to have that toughness. And I think more than that, you have to have the right perspective. It sounds like you do. But, somebody asked me yesterday, they were like, hey, what's the biggest challenge facing, your business? And it's funny because there's like 3 or 4 people answering and they were giving like legitimate like concerns. And I couldn't really think of one because to me, it's not that I don't want to be realistic. Like there are definitely challenges and there's days that are just grinding and, they're grueling and they're really tough. But the reality is if you look at all challenges as an opportunity, then everything kind of turns into that positive perspective. Like, hey, how am I going to turn this negative thing into a positive and then, use that to my advantage because other people are not going to do that. So I think that's a really interesting point you make about, the toughness built through sports. And I think that might be an advantage to kids. Hey, look, if you're, young, get into sports early, because it's not about being athletic, right? It's about learning all of the other lessons that come and will, help you the rest of your life. So talk about some of that discipline. Where does the discipline come in, right? Being an entrepreneur, you're now 6 months in, you're completely reliant, you got to develop your own income. How does discipline factor into your day?
My whole day has to run on discipline, and that means late nights, early mornings, sticking to my schedule. I also think the biggest thing that discipline has really showed me is delayed gratification. So it would be really easy to just take a nap or just, kind of take things easy and slow. But I'm able to say, I'm going to work really hard right now and sacrifice some other things in my life so that I can get to where I want to go. So I think, discipline is putting off what you want right now for what you want in the future.
Yeah.
So right now, I might want to go take a nap. Like I'm exhausted. I was up till 2 I was up till 2 a.m. last night. Do I want to go take a nap? Absolutely. But I'd rather become, an award-winning CEO down the road, so I'm going to choose that instead. So I also think, just going back to your point about everything that sports taught me, I think another really big theme in my life and what it has taught me is the ability to be uncomfortable for an extended period of time. So I feel uncomfortable a large portion of my day every day starting this business. There are things that I'm learning how to do for the first time. I'm spending a crazy amount of time and money on this business, and it's very much so outside my comfort zone. I mean, neither one of my parents is an entrepreneur. They were both in the finance world. To me, that's comfortable. I mean, the fact that you and I are having this conversation in the middle of the day on a weekday is uncomfortable for me. I mean, I came from corporate America. Shouldn't I be in a
Yep.
cubicle right now? So the biggest thing that sports taught me, and especially college sports, was how to deal with discomfort and being so far outside your comfort zone, because it's terrifying, honestly. But I'm able to look back at those early days of college soccer and think I was like crawling out of my skin with discomfort, and I just had to get through it. So I guess technically I'm in like my first semester of college if we're only 6 months into this business. And, I'm still a freshman in this business. And I remember freshman year of college it was a hard transition for me. I was homesick. Everything was new and different. I wasn't playing. I was not playing. I was benched my freshman year, as I should have been. I wasn't good enough yet. But I was able to push through the discomfort, and I was able to stay disciplined to get to where I wanted to go. So again, so many parallels between college soccer and what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's really no success in being comfortable, right? Not for people who want to set that next level. Whenever you can become comfortable in chaos, that's really when you make the biggest difference. Is the people who, they'll look at something and say, that's not going to be fun. Don't really look forward to doing that. But guess what? I'm going to do it anyways. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to be really, really good at it. And it's going to make me stand out, because everyone else is going to be uncomfortable, and you can tell they're uncomfortable. They don't want to be in this room. They don't want to network. They don't want to stay up till 2 a.m. at night. But I will, and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. I definitely think that is another great point and lessons that, we can take out of this today. Talk to me about this, right? Like you mentioned you had you had more of a corporate America background, much more structured probably. What's the difference to you in what you were doing and what you're doing now, and kind of why are you doing it?
I have freedom now. I never had freedom in corporate America. So I was a math major, business minor in college, and thought I'm going to go into data analysis or actuarial science or, corporate finance, and I'm going to climb the corporate ladder, and I'm always going to have a steady paycheck every 2 weeks, and I'm going to have a 401k, and I'll never have to wonder where, my next paycheck is coming from. And I remember the first couple of years being in corporate America, I just thought, this is it. This is what I signed up for. Like, this is not fun. And in fact, like, I'm really dreading this. And the biggest thing was I just felt very stuck. Like, I felt very boxed into a corner, and you have to do this, and this is your job, and you can't question anything. You can't do your own thing. This is how you need to think. This is what you need to do. You need to do this checklist every day, and you have to stay at your desk from 9 to 5. You cannot leave. And I felt very boxed in, almost claustrophobic, metaphorically. And
maybe in reality, right? Those cubicles are kind of tiny.
so I just had felt so stuck. And that's a big reason why I ended up starting my Instagram account. Was I need a creative outlet. I need something to do for me. Um, I created that account on July 4th of 2018. And I remember that day specifically because I was at this family barbecue on the coast of Maine. I mean, I was eating a grilled burger on the beach. That's pure happiness. And I was miserable because I thought I have to go to work the next day. Like, I hate this. I'm so unhappy right now. And I thought, that's it. I'm done. I'm starting this Instagram account. I'm going to connect with other like-minded people. Maybe it turns into something. I had no idea what it would turn into. Maybe it turns into something, but I have to do something so that I'm not stuck in corporate America forever. Not that there's anything wrong with corporate America. It's just not for me. The biggest thing I have now is autonomy. I have freedom over my time, my location. I can live where I want. I can travel where I want. I can take a day off when I want. I can make as much as I want, right? There's no salary cap when you're self-employed. So it really gave me purpose and freedom.
I love that. And I also think it's interesting because, you mentioned to me right now, like being a solo entrepreneur, right? You're wearing every hat. You're payroll. You're the one ordering supplies. You're the one, doing everything. There's freedom, but there's also accountability, right? And who better to be accountable for than yourself? Talk about that for a minute. Talk about what it's like to wear all those hats and maybe a piece of advice that you would give. I know this one thing that probably one of the better things that came out of COVID. I think it's interesting, right? Through something like that, a lot of good actually came out of it. I mean, I know in our industry, we're pretty behind the eight ball with technology. But now, guess what? Everyone can at least log into a webinar, right? It might take you 5 minutes to find the mute button because you're on different softwares, but you can log into a webinar. So there's some good things that came out of that. I think one of the other things is I think it made young people realize maybe the benefit in having some of that autonomy and freedom that you're talking about. Like, what would it be like to found my own company, to build something? I think that's what made America so great originally, is everyone wanted to build something. Everyone had pride in their ability to do something themselves. So talk about that for a minute. Like, what is that like wearing all the different hats? And then what's your advice to somebody who wants to go out and do the same thing?
Wearing a lot of hats every day is a juggling act. It's not easy to go from, the bakery or the commercial kitchen where I'm baking and then jump on a call about packaging and branding. And then I'm jumping on another call talking about sourcing this ingredient. And then the next call is about email marketing. And it feels a little jumpy for sure at times, but overall, I wouldn't change anything. I think in order to stay disciplined and successful, you just have to set your day up knowing what are the absolute things I must do today. So what is the most time sensitive? What can I maybe put off till tomorrow? Or what needs my immediate attention right now? So I try to think of, my day as like 9 to 5 is when most people work. So if I'm sending emails to other people who are in their office, I can't wait till 7 p.m., especially on a Friday,
Yep.
to send that. So there are certain things that I have to get done within the typical working hours for other people. So that means I probably shouldn't go for a run in the middle of the day because I need to be sending emails or doing other things. So just trying to think about, set up your day, structure your day, and prioritize like what is most time sensitive and important for that day.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, people might hear this and be like, "Man, Addison, that sounds like you're super stressed all the time, right? That's a lot of work." But I read something the other day. Like, who actually lives the longest? They did a study on this. Is people who have stress and acknowledge it. The people who die the fastest are actually the ones who have stress and like think it's a negative thing, instead of being like, "Yeah, I have stress. Like, I'm running a company. What do you expect, right? Let's just go. Let's get after it. Let's do it." So I thought that was super interesting. But I wanted to get into this. Like, what's your favorite part of the business? You mentioned all the different things you have to do. What's your favorite part of the business?
Connecting with customers, getting their feedback and seeing the 5-star reviews. And there's nothing that's more rewarding than that. Oftentimes, entrepreneurship can feel very lonely because you're working long hours by yourself. Most of your friends and family aren't, entrepreneurs, and it's hard to find people that you can talk to about these things. So it can often feel like I'm just by myself a lot. Whereas connecting with customers shows me that all my hard work is worth it and it's positively impacting someone's life. I mean, there's really just no better gift than that. Some of the stories that I've heard about how my desserts have delivered joy and happiness and hope and, have been given to someone who is going through a hard time or struggling. I mean, it's incredibly rewarding.
Yep. That's what keeps you going, right? It's not, you're going to have highs and lows. You might as well accept that, right? Everyone will in life, and you definitely will in business, especially when you're in the situation we're in. But you gotta have those good times and remember them, and celebrate them, because that's what this is all about. I love that. As we wind down today, what is the biggest challenge facing Sweet Addison's right now, and what's your plan to overcome that?
How to grow. Up until now, I've done mostly everything myself. So I'll definitely have to hire someone soon because demand is just getting out of control, which is a great problem to have.
Great problem, yes.
So how do I grow efficiently and effectively? That's the hardest part right now. So I'll probably have to kind of take an inventory of my time and where my time is best spent, and then hire out the things that I'm either not good at or, as the CEO of a company, shouldn't necessarily be doing. So I try to think of really successful entrepreneurs and what are they spending their time on. When you're growing a business, you kind of have to wear all the hats, like we were just saying. But I think about, like, who's a huge Jeff Bezos. And I know Amazon is, a beast, but he's not handling customer service, and he probably hasn't done that for years and years and years because his time is better spent elsewhere. Yep. So if I look at my business, which is like 0.1% of Amazon's success, but I need to think about, where should I be spending my time? Should I be adding the sticker labels to the baggies? Probably not. I can hire that out for a relatively low amount of money, and at the end of the day, that's not growing the business. It's a necessary step, but it's not making the business better. So that's kind of how I view hiring. The other thing is, I could bring in like an operations person or a marketing person to really grow sales, then hopefully give me more capital so that I can invest more into the business. So that's the next step for Sweet Addison's, is just, how do I keep up with demand and effectively grow this company?
Always have to take that self-inventory, right? Everything's changing constantly. I think that's one of the things that I tell people all the time. They're like, hey, what's the hardest part of your job? And I think it's constantly having to prioritize things. I mean, I could go into a meeting at 9 with a certain list of priorities and come out of that meeting at 10 with a new list of priorities, right? You have to constantly juggle those things. You have to be disciplined. You have to be organized, in my opinion, because I think it's the only way to know kind of where those opportunities, and then don't be afraid. When an opportunity presents itself to you, go after it. And don't overthink things. I think that's maybe something I've been telling myself lately. Sometimes we overthink everything. Look, if it's profitable, if it's great for the clients, then do it, right? It's something you need to do. Take opportunities when they present themselves. Don't run away from them. I think I can't wait to try a cookie. My wife is going to love them, I'm sure. And the brownies too, it sounds like. Sweet Addison's is going far. Disciplined, devoted to your customers. I know you're going to do a lot of great things. So thank you for joining the One and Done podcast today. It was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.